Chag Pesach Sameach. Happy Passover. Welcome to everyone joining us from our Temple Isaiah community and beyond for our Seder experience. I know that this is not how many of us expected to spend this holiday and celebrate Passover, but celebrate it we must. This is the exact right holiday for this time. For this is a holiday that is all about hope, all about believing in the possibility of a better tomorrow. For our Seder experience tonight, we'll be using the Kaveler Haggadah. Hopefully you had an opportunity to download it and print it out so you can follow along with us as we go. We are urged in our Haggadah to consider each and every one of us as if we have been personally redeemed from Egypt. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov builds on this idea when he teaches that the Exodus occurs in every human being, in every era, in every year, and in every day. What a powerful idea for this time. We each have our own narrow straits, our Mitzrayim, our Egypts from which we emerge. Let us lean on this powerful story of our Exodus in this difficult time. Let us lean on hope. Let us be grateful for the blessings that we do have. Let us do what we can, and let us keep the vision of a better tomorrow close at heart. A great way to internalize the message of the Exodus, the story of our Passover, is to talk about it, to have conversations about it, to ask questions about it. Questions like why, and questions like...
What's that?
Questions about our Seder plates. This is the matzah, this is an egg. We put it on our Seder plates to represent newness, new beginnings. It is also a symbol of one of the sacrifices we made on Passover when we had our temple.
What's that?
We have a roasted beet on our Seder plate. This is the place for zeroa, commonly a shank bone. It may be a little harder at this time of year for you to get a shank bone, given everything that's going on, and a roasted beet is an acceptable substitute. In fact, for many years, our family has used a roasted beet for the many vegetarians in our family. It is red and earthy, just like one of the sacrifices that were made in the temple in Jerusalem, just like the zeroa.
What's that?
This one? This is maror. For us, we have horseradish, a bitter herb on our plate to represent the bitterness of slavery.
What's that?
Karpas, a spring green. For us, we're using parsley. This is also a symbol of newness, of springtime, and traditionally, and we'll get there in just a little bit, we dip this green into salt water, a symbol of our tears, our sadness during slavery.
What's that?
You may have different modern additions on your Seder plate. We like to put a citrus, an orange, in this case a clementine, on our plate as a symbol of inclusion and equality between men and women.
What's that?
Charoset. It's a delicious mixture of nuts and apples and wine, and it is to symbolize the mortar that went between the bricks as our people were building in Egypt. It is very, very sweet. And when we have that maror, what we also do is we mix it with that sweetness. We mix the bitterness with a little bit of sweetness. An excellent lesson for today.
What's that?
So many Seder plates have an extra spot for an additional bitter herb, not because we need extra bitterness in our lives, but because sometimes we use one of the bitter herbs for that time for maror, and we use a different bitter herb when we make that Hillel sandwich. So this is our Seder plate. I hope you have a wonderful Seder plate built right in front of you. Let us get started. Let us begin our Seder.
We now turn to page 9 as we prepare to kindle the lights of Passover. We finish the blessing with the words, Lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov, Yom Tov being that it is a holiday and not Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner Lahadlik ner shel Yom Tov.
Let us share our order for the Seder. We're on pages 10 and 11. There are lots of different tunes as you share the order. Sometimes you can just read it as well. I'm going to share a tune that we sing in our family. We also have some hand movements to go along with it. So if you're on pages 10 and 11, I'll teach the hand movements as I kind of talk through the order, and then we'll add the Hebrew next. We start with Kadesh, and so here's the hand movement. We lift up our wine, we bless over the wine, and then we wash our hands. We dip a vegetable in salt water, and then we break the matzah. We tell the story of the Exodus with Magid, and then we wash our hands again, and this was even before Corona. We then bless and eat the matzah, and we eat the maror and the bitter herbs. We make our Hillel sandwich, and we enjoy our meal, right? We rub our belly, shulchan orech. We hide the afikomen. We say thank you after our meal. We sing our praises, and then we complete our meal. So now let's add in the Hebrew. You ready? Okay, here we go. Kadesh orchatz, karpas yachatz, magid rachsa, motzi matzah, maror korach, shulchan orech, tzafun barech, halel nirtza.
We arrive now at our first cup of wine, the first of 4 that we'll have this evening. We use the nusach for Passover, that is to say the special melodies that are assigned for the holiday. So the melodies will sound a little bit different, and the words are a little different than the Kiddush we might say on Friday night. You can find the words on page 13 of your Haggadah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'am, v'romemanu mikol lashon, v'kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav. V'titen lanu Adonai Eloheinu be'ahava, moadim l'simcha, chagim uzmanim l'sason. Et yom chag hamatzot hazeh, zman cherutenu mikra kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim. Kivanu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashna mikol ha'amim. U'moadei kodshecha, b'simcha u'v'sason hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim. L'chaim. The bottom of page 14, we'll find the words to Shehecheyanu, words we recite at the beginning of a holiday that tell us that we are starting something new. We thank God for giving us life and for sustaining us and bringing us to this moment. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
After we do the first cup of wine, it's time for orchatz, which is the first hand washing. Now, of course, in this season, we want to make sure that we've already washed our hands with soap and water for 20 seconds, but this is a ritual hand washing. So at this point in the Seder, you can either get up and go to a sink and wash your hands again, or you can also use a washing cup, or really any cup that you have, and pour the water over your hands. It's customary to even do it a couple of times, and then dry off your hands. This is our ritual hand washing to prepare ourselves for the Seder ahead, and this one does not have a blessing. The next step of our Seder is karpas. Often people use parsley for this step of the Seder, and so we say a blessing over this spring vegetable, and then we're going to dip it into some salt water and take a bite. Also, once we say this blessing, it's kind of like a blessing over appetizers, so you can start eating appetizers after this, especially things that you dip. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri ha'adamah.
we reach the stage of yachatz, which is very simply the breaking of the middle piece of matzah from the 3 pieces of matzah that might be on your plate underneath the elaborately designed white embroidered cloth or paper towel. And I have to say, in preparing this, I have a lot of broken matzah around me now in the blooper reels that perhaps will be released. So we simply remove the cover, grab that middle matzah, and break it. But when you put it back, you keep one half out, usually the bigger half, and you put it somewhere else. Oops, there's that extra piece of matzah. Put it in a new container, and you hide it, and this becomes the afikomen. Delightful. If you find it where I hid it here, something will have gone wrong. As we begin the magid, the telling of our story, we uncover our matzah plate, we lift up a piece of the matzah, and we say the words of Ha lachma anya. Ha lachma anya di achalu av hatana be'ar'a di mitzrayim. This is the bread of affliction that our ancestors ate in Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are in need come and share this Passover meal. Now we are here. Next year we'll be in the land of Israel and perhaps, hopefully, in each other's homes. This year we are slaves. This year we are in shelter. Next year we will be free.
As we come to the storytelling part of our Seder, we look to our Seder table to help guide us in the storytelling. The original Seder was created after the Greco-Roman meal called a symposium. It was done in such a way that they would put lots and lots of food out on their table in order to be able to get people to ask questions about what the food was all about. And so on this Seder night, we also put food onto our table. And this food is supposed to get us to ask lots of questions, and so we are able to tell the story. Now, it's a tradition that when we get to this question asking part, that we have our youngest kids at our Seder table ask the questions. And yes, you are our youngest kid. And Jakey, can you tell us how many questions do we ask tonight? 4 questions, exactly. And so we, as the
and I am 4.
and you are 4
And
too.
Josh.
Yes, and your friend
And
Josh.
Noah, my father's 4, and Max.
Exactly, all of your friends are 4, and so hopefully they're going to help to ask the questions tonight too. But as the youngest kids and all the clergy families, we're going to sing these questions together, and we invite you to sing along with us. You can find the questions on page 20 in your Haggadah. Here we go. Are you guys ready? Let's sing together. Ma nishana halayla hazeh mikol haleilot mikol haleilot shebechol haleilot anu ochlin hametu matzah hametu matzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah halayla hazeh kulo matzah shebechol haleilot anu ochlin sha'ar yirakot halayla hazeh kulo maror halayla hazeh maror shebechol haleilot ein anu matbilin afilu pa'am echad halayla hazeh shetei fa'amim halayla hazeh shetei fa'amim shebechol haleilot anu ochlin bein ushvin uvein mesubin halayla hazeh kulanu mesubin Halayla hazeh, halayla hazeh, kulanu misubim. I invite you now to read them in English from your Haggadah and to start thinking about the questions that you might have. We want to be able to ask lots and lots of questions on this evening of Passover.
On page 22, we find the words Avadim Hayinu. Once we were slaves. But of course, on Passover, we know indeed once we were slaves, but Ata, now, B'nei Chorin, we are free. Avadim Hayinu, Hayinu, Ata B'nei Chorin, B'nei Chorin, Avadim Hayinu, Ata B'nei Chorin, Avadim Hayinu, Ata B'nei Chorin, B'nei Chorin, Ata B'nei Chorin, B'nei Chorin.
We are taught in the Torah to teach our children about the Passover story. 4 times it gives examples of how to tell the story. Each time it's a little different. From this we learn we must think about how we present the story and who the audience is at our Seder. Every person is different and brings a different perspective to the Seder table. The Haggadah introduces these various perspectives by presenting 4 children, beginning on page 24 in your Haggadah. The wise one, the rebellious one, the simple one, and the one who doesn't know how to ask. Haggadot often get creative with their various representations of the 4 children. We rabbis have taken on the task of providing a representation of the children that reflects the uniqueness of this year. Let's see what each of us has to say. The wise child inquires, what are all the rules and customs for celebrating Passover? This year, we want to know, is it okay to invite Elijah into our house when we are in shelter in place and are supposed to be social distancing? The rebellious one asks,
I'm the one who likes to challenge everything. So on this Passover, when everything else is being canceled all around, why do we actually have to celebrate Passover?
The simple one asks,
what's going on? I know I'm new here, but is this how you always do Seder in California?
and the one who doesn't know how to ask,
Mute. You're on mute.
we can't hear you.
Press it down there.
Oh, no, we can't.
Wait, can you hear me? Where did I go?
Now we can't see you.
Are you kidding
Where
me?
are you?
Lola!
How to ask.
Let us tell our story, the story of our Exodus. We're on page 30. The Exodus story begins with Joseph, an Israelite, the favorite son of the biblical patriarch Jacob, and a trusted aide of Pharaoh. Joseph was a close friend of the Egyptians and even helped save the Egyptian people from famine, which is when people don't have enough food. But after Joseph grew old and died, Pharaoh decided he didn't want to be nice to the Israelites anymore and made them slaves. That's pretty awful, but it gets even worse. Pharaoh didn't want there to be many Israelites in case they decided to fight back and demand their freedom. So he ordered all the newborn Israelite boys to be tossed into the Nile River. No way, said one mother named Yocheved.
No way.
She refused to drown her baby. Instead, she secretly left her newborn son in a basket at the edge of the river. Shortly after, Pharaoh's daughter discovered the boy and decided to raise him as her own child. She named him Moses. Then Yocheved, who was actually Moses' mom, became the baby's nurse. And as we read in Deuteronomy, and we cried out to the eternal God of our parents, and the eternal heard our voice and saw our abuse and our trouble and our oppression. Moses grew up to be a young man who cared about justice, about tzedek. So when he saw one of Pharaoh's deputies beat an Israelite slave, that made him so mad. In a fit of rage, Moses killed the Egyptian taskmaster. He then ran away because staying behind would only lead him to getting punished by the Egyptians. He left Egypt to become a shepherd and married Zipporah. One day, while tending to his sheep, Moses saw a bush on fire. Wow. Strangely, however, it wasn't turning black or to ash or to anything like that. Even stranger, the bush began to speak. It was God's voice telling Moses to free the Israelite slaves. So back to Egypt Moses went with God's message, "Let my people go." But Pharaoh, still cruel and selfish, said, "No!" God did not like Pharaoh's answer and responded with the 10 plagues. First, God turned the waters of Egypt into blood. And then God brought frogs and lice and wild beasts, cattle disease, boils, hail, locusts that destroyed crops, and darkness that lasted for 3 whole days. This was all terrible, but God's final plague was worst of all, the death of every firstborn in the land of Egypt. We are now at the place in our Seder where we lift up the names of the 10 plagues. We'll do so in Hebrew, and as we do, we traditionally take a finger and place it into our wine and then place that wine onto our plate. We are doing so in order to remove some of our own joy as we name these plagues, some of our own sweetness. Even as we moved out of Egypt, we moved out of those narrow streets, others were experiencing suffering. It is important for us to live and name that as well. So as I name these plagues in Hebrew, I invite you to join in the ritual with us. So here we go. Dam. Sephardeia.
Sephardeia.
Kinim.
Kinim.
Arov.
Arov.
Dever.
Dever.
Shechin.
Shechin.
Barad.
Barad.
Arbe.
Arbe.
Choshech.
Choshech.
Makat bechorot.
Makat bechorot.
And in these difficult days, I lift up some more modern day plagues that are in our world, especially at this time. I lift up the plague of untruths being told. God, please let this plague end, the plague of misinformation. Let it lift, and let facts and truths and science lead the day. I lift up the plague of loneliness. Many of us are experiencing loneliness at this time, especially those of us who are living on our own. God, please let this plague abate. Let us remember that our physical distance need not equate with psychological and spiritual and emotional distance. Let us use this as an opportunity to connect more rather than less. And finally, I lift up the plague of this virus that is taking too many lives. May we soon know a day when there are treatments for COVID-19, a vaccine for coronavirus. May we soon return to the lives that we once led, but this time may we return more educated and more connected. May we return more grateful for this life and for every breath that we get to take. We left those narrow straits that we called Mitzrayim, that we called Egypt. We leave the narrow straits that we are in today. We move through the miracle that is the parted sea before us, and we head to the promised land.
We come now to a classic Passover song, Dayenu. Words that remind us that even if God had done just one thing for us, even if God had just brought us out of Egypt, even if God had just given us Shabbat, any of those things would have been enough. Even if God brought us out of, or rather gave us Torah, it would have been enough. And so we sing these words. On page 36 and 37, we will follow the boldface verses. Ilu hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, dayenu, 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 dayenu. Natan lanu et ha-Shabbat, natan lanu et ha-Shabbat, dayenu, 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 natalanu, natalanu, et Torah, natalanu, et Torah, daenu, 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 daenu.
Now that we've heard the story, it's time for another drink of wine. As you can see, I have my 4 cups here all ready to go. This is cup number 2, and invite you to fill your glasses with whatever beverage suits you. And we offer the blessing, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, to which you may respond, Amen. L'chaim. And as we get prepared to eat the meal proper, we once again wash our hands. Traditionally, this is a ritual hand washing, where you just splash the water on and say a blessing. Of course, in this time, I highly encourage you to make it a real hand washing, and after 20 seconds, or maybe during the 20 seconds, to offer this blessing as you cleanse your hands and prepare to busy them with eating. The blessing that one says immediately after, or in this case during hand washing, is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Praised are you, sovereign of all things, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us regarding the washing of hands.
As we get closer to the meal, it's finally time to say hamotzi. So we take our plate that has 3 matzahs on it. We have a top and a middle and the bottom. The middle one is already broken because of the afikomen, but we take them in our hand and we're going to recite hamotzi, and then there's also a special blessing that we say specifically for the matzah, and then it is time to eat the matzah. And actually, if matzah is not really your thing and you don't like to eat it on Passover, according to the rabbis, this is the only time you're really kind of obligated to eat matzah, is when you say this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah.
Our next blessing is for the maror. The maror represents the bitterness of slavery. It is often horseradish that we might have, but it can also be chazeret, which can be a romaine lettuce. So at first when you eat romaine lettuce, it's sweet, but as you go and eat it, it gets bitter along the way, which represents the experience of the Israelites in Egypt. At first it was sweet. They were very prosperous in Egypt, but over time with the new Pharaoh, it led to the bitterness of slavery. Now, Rabbi Gamliel said that there are 3 requirements that we have on Passover. One of them is Pesach, the Paschal Lamb. The second is matzah, and the third is maror. And so maror has its own special blessing because it is one of the requirements that we have. So I invite you now to get a little bit of your horseradish, your maror, or your chazeret. And with it, we're going to say the blessing that you can find on page 45. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. Blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign of the universe, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us to eat maror. So take a little bite of that, and as you do that, we'll move to our next piece. Now that we've had a little bit of maror, we go to the second dipping of the night. We add the maror into what Rabbi Hillel said is, or what is now known as the Hillel sandwich, or korach. So it was said that with these three things that we are supposed to have, the paschal lamb, the matzah, and the maror, Rabbi Hillel will take it and make it into a sandwich. But now we no longer eat the paschal lamb, so instead we bring in the charoset. And so it is said that you dip the maror into the charoset, you put it in between the matzah, and now you have a Hillel sandwich that represents all these different requirements that we have on Passover. So I invite you to make your Hillel sandwich with the matzah, a little bit of horseradish, some charoset, and enjoy this great treat of Passover. After you're done with it, this is the time that you can then move on to Shulchan Aruch, our favorite part of the evening, the dinner, where you can enjoy your Passover dinner. And when you're done, you can join us back as we go looking for the afikomen. This is a great time to press pause. Welcome back. I hope you had a great meal. We now come to what is called safun, which means hidden. And we know that something special was hidden earlier in our meal. At the very beginning of our storytelling, we took one piece of matzah and we divided it in half. One of them we went to go and hide somewhere else, known as the afikomen, and the other we kept to help tell the story. So when we began our story, the matzah represented slavery, and now the afikomen, which we're about to go and find, represents freedom. So when we come back to our story at this point, we bring the two pieces together again, and we see that our story begins with slavery and ends with freedom. But all of it, both the slavery and the freedom, represents the wholeness of this Exodus story, this Passover experience for us. It's tradition that the last piece of food that you eat during your Seder is a little piece of the afikomen. So in order to be able to continue with the rest of the Seder, we need to finish our meal with eating a little piece of the afikomen, but first we must go find it. So I invite you now to go on your search for the afikomen, and as you do, we have a fun song to help you with the excitement. Good luck in finding the afikomen.
As Rabbi Miller mentioned, I'm going to share a melody with you now that you can listen to as you're searching for the afikomen. Let's see if you find it before the song is over. This song is called the Afikomen Mambo, one of my favorite Passover songs. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find the Afikomen. Every year at Pesach time, we eat the matzah and we drink the wine. We ask 4 questions one by one, but before the Seder's done, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find the afikomen. We eat charoset and we dip karpas. We tell the story of the Exodus. The bitter herbs, they make my eyes go cross. But when I find the afikomen, I'm the boss. So I'm gonna find it. I'm not gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm not gonna find the afikomen. Now you can hide it on the table, hide it in the box, underneath the stairway or inside the kitchen clock. You can put it in your pocket, slip it under the TV, but you can't have the afikomen from me, 'cause everyone knows that the Seder's not done until we taste the afikomen. And when I find it, I'll articulate the terms on which we shall negotiate, 'cause I'm gonna find it. I'm not gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm not gonna find the afikomen. That song is by Rabbi Joe Black. We turn to page 52, where we find our third cup of wine. We sing the blessing according to the Nusach for the holiday. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei peri hagafen. L'chaim. And now, it is time to welcome, hopefully, the prophet Elijah. So we're going to walk over to our door. We're going to open the door for Elijah. My guess is it's going to be a little darker out where you are during your Seder. But we sing as we welcome the prophet Elijah, who announces the coming redemption. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera ve'amenu, Yavo Eleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi. Now you can check Elijah's cup and close the door. Did Elijah visit your Seder? Is the wine a little bit lower? Are we that much closer to redemption? I sure hope so. And now on page 55 we find Hallel. Hallel are psalms of praise. We'll sing one that is most easy, as it is the words Hallelu, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
We've reached now our fourth and final cup. We fill our glasses again with wine or juice with the fruit of the vine. We bring that sweetness now into our bodies and into our hearts as we share these words, which you can find on page 57. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. We've reached the very end of our Seder. We've reached near the conclusion of our time together. It is traditional when you reach the very end of the Seder to say the words which can be found on page 59. We say, Lishana Haba'ah Yerushalayim, which means next year in Jerusalem. May indeed that be so, or at the very least, may next year's Passover be in person. Chag Sameach, happy Passover!
Happy Passover!